Greetings, welcome. We are Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary. I'm Reverend Lori Cardona. I'm here with Reverend Dr. Grace Telesco. We have not been together in a couple months. In fact, the last time Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary provided a forum, it was for our ordination of Reverend Val Jennings in December. So we've missed each other, we've missed you, we've missed our students and our friends and followers. So we decided we would get together every now and then and check in with you and have a conversation. So today we are calling this conversation Sacred Struggle, a conversation with the deans. Reverend Grace Telesco and I are both co-founders and executive deans of Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary. So as we always do when we're together, we start with a prayer. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath in. And when you exhale, put your hand on your heart. And we give thanks for this opportunity to be together, heart to heart, soul to soul. We say, here's my heart, Lord. Guide me so that as I move into this day and into this conversation and into the world of conflict, we remember that there's peace within, that we have access to peace within. And that's what we search for today. That's what we search for in every moment. And we're so happy that we have this opportunity to be joined together in a search for peace, in a search for connection, and in a search for all that is holy and sacred. And bringing all of that into our consciousness, we give thanks as we take another deep breath together and exhale into this moment. And I'm so glad to be with you, my dear beloved. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And I just want to tell anybody who's going to watch this later on how it kind of happens. So we have conversations pretty much weekly, and we're experiencing what's happening around us in our country and in our world, and it's very difficult to try to maintain like a spiritual homeostasis, like a balance. And so there's a lot of like fear, and there's a lot of anger and righteous indignation and all of that. That's shock and awe. like Anybody who is like doesn't have their head in the sand sees what's happening in the world, right? And we're not going to make this political because we are 501c3, and we're not allowed to get into too much of that kind of thing. But we always come from we try to come from a dig deep place. And so you said to me, we were like, so how do we survive? How do we survive this struggle? What do we do? What is our role? Where does seminary fall in this? Where do spiritual leaders fall in it? All of that. And it's very confusing and it's very upsetting. And you said something that was just like, boom. You said to me, you asked me, what would Krishna say right now? Like, in the Bhagavad Gita, really, and this is from the Hindu scripture and the Hindu tradition, what would Krishna say? And I said, Krishna would say, it doesn't matter. Like, all of this stuff that's happening is in Maya. It's not real. It's all fake news, really, right? But you're but I don't get it. Like, how could that be? It feels so real, and it feels so frightening, and it feels like a nightmare. And it's Maya, but it's like Maya on steroids with a Steven Spielberg touch to it. So we said, why don't we, as we started to talk about, we're not this body, we're not this mind, we're not this personality, what would Krishna say? It was like, this is a great conversation, and we wanted to share it with others. So I'm going to pose the first question to you. How do we make sense of the suffering and division in our country, in our world? How do we make sense of
That's a
it?
great question. But it goes back, it's sort of like the answer is built into the conversation that you and I had earlier this week, because it's not really about making sense. It's about how we navigate it, because the sense is understanding the senselessness of it. And so who are we in the senselessness? And it just so happens that I came across this meme earlier this week, and it was from Alice in Wonderland, the Carol Lewis book. And I've only come to realize as an adult that there's a certain amount of mystic wisdom in fairy tales. And there's a conversation that Alice, who's fallen down this rabbit hole, that she's trying to make sense of the world. And I guess it's the cat that she's speaking with, the Cheshire. And she says, "Am I going crazy? Look what's going on in this. What's going on? I'm going crazy." And the cat says, well, yeah, because you're here. You chose to be here, and it's crazy here. So of course, it all looks crazy. And Paramahansa Yogananda, one of my favorite teachers, he said, once you realize that the world is a place of madness, then why do you expect anything other than madness? So it's really about how we ourselves individually navigate what's going on. And I like to continuously remind myself and others that the one thing we can do, if nothing else, is not add to the madness, not do anything to make it worse, not to engage in hateful conversations, because when things are divided, it's a us versus them mentality. And when we get into that mentality, we ourselves become a part of the madness. And so how do we make sense of it? We make sense of it by recognizing that our part is not to be a part of it. It's not for us to. Now, I'm going to also have a caveat. I was going to say it's not for us to engage, but there's a certain amount of engagement that's necessary for someone like you who academically and professionally, there's things you have to do that you have personal, perhaps, conflict around. So maybe I'll pass it on back to you, and you can talk about how you're navigating.
It's not easy when you're steeped in the Maya. See, Krishna said to Arjuna, "Oh, my wondrous Maya, how difficult you are to cross." It is difficult. It isn't easy. I mean, I'm not enlightened. I'm not, and I'm hoping someday to become that, but no time soon. I could tell you that. But
Me neither.
I know that making sense out of this, there is no sense. It's
Right.
it's nonsense, right? It's nonsense. There's no sense. So then what is left but spiritual practice? And it's not even, well, spirituality. I have spirituality. What does that even mean? You have spirituality. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. Of course it's spirituality. It's all spirituality. Don't focus on the non-spiritual, because the non-spiritual is nonsense, right? But the spiritual is all that matters. Well, okay, what does that mean? That means that this mind, this body, this personality, 100 years down the road will be nothing. I will not exist. No existence, no thingness. And all of that is very abstract. So that when you're like, okay, now pedal to the metal application, how do I do it? I think it goes into the next question, which is the practice piece. What spiritual practice sustains us through fear and despair? And I also think, I just want to add one little piece to this. It's also we reel, and I mean real like, I guess, REEL, not REAL. We reel against hatred because it's antithetical to us. Like, we don't get it. Like, everything that we teach, all of the golden rule, all of the faith practices that we have, I don't care if it's Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Guru Granth Sahib, doesn't matter who it is. What it matters is that none of these faiths teach hate. So when we have hate in the backdrop, hate as a soundtrack underneath our movie, it's problematic. So what spiritual practice then can sustain us through this fear, this despair?
Yeah, I think that we look for the place where we find comfort in spirituality. It's not about doctrine. It's not about, oh, it has to be a certain way. It has to be a place where we find comfort and understand that whatever we're going through, whether it's a personal difficulty or, like you said, the foundation of hate that we're constantly looking at and hearing about, that we're going to have our human emotions and we're going to have some responses to that. And it's almost like we have to gently redirect ourselves because we are. I apologize for having.
I,
Is that bothersome? You can't hear.
um,
Oh, okay, there's yard work going on.
yeah.
Uh, the practice is a gentle reminding of ourselves once we have our upset, because we're going to have our upset. We have our stuff that happens, and so we can gently say, okay, that's happening. You're having your upset, but you don't want to live there. You don't want to identify with that. We want to find the spiritual practice where we find the most comfort and what makes sense to us. You and I have different ways of finding our comfort spiritually, but it's still under the same heading, spirituality. So in A Course in Miracles, there's something called the holy instant. And it's saying that even if you can remove yourself from the way of the world for a moment and be suspended to this recognition of what is beyond the fear, what is beyond the ego, and you might just get a glimpse of that. During the day, maybe we have to bring ourselves back to that memory of, oh, I remember when I was in prayer or when I was in community and I was in meditation, that I had a glimpse of what it was like to be released from my ego's fears. And so when we have those catch and release moments, right? Here's my ego acting up. Can I catch it? Can I release it? Well, I'm not going to be able to if I don't have some foundational practices. So if I get up every morning and start to practice, do japa as you have taught us, or do some meditation, do some prayer, listen to some beautiful music, be intentional, set some intention. And then I say often that what's going out there is an opportunity for prayer. Instead of seeing it as something horrible, we can see it as an opportunity to transform our mind about how we see it. It's a prayer list. It's scripture. The universe is scripture.
Hmm. I like that. So, it's interesting. I'm going to self-disclose. I know that this is going to be live, well, public, on YouTube, on our Sacred Journey YouTube channel, as well as the Darshan channel and Miracles with a Twist, I'm imagining, channel. So we'll be uploading this, and as you're seeing it, whoever you are, you're going to probably be seeing it on one of those channels. Okay. I personally have been struggling, sacred struggle, struggling with leaving Darshan, leaving the physical space, the physical location in Oakland Park, and having a weekly practice, right? So it's you're forced. You don't have a choice. You can't say, I don't feel like doing this. I mean, I did say that several times. I don't feel like doing this, but I'm doing it because I've committed to do it, right? Now it's not there. So that methodology, that medium, that way of practicing is not existent right now. Not there anymore, right? Which is fine. But what am I doing? Am I doing a practice? So, you and I talked about this a little bit, where I was starting to do some like Dear God letters in the morning. And then I was picking up postcards from Spirit as a response, as an answer. Well, that didn't last very long. That practice didn't last very long. And I had a conversation with Reverend Dr. Mary Walker the other day, and it was really great. I haven't talked to her in a long time. We talked, and she said, "Hey, Rev, you know how she talks. It's like very down to earth." She goes, "Rev, now's the time for us to practice like what we're preaching. Like just practice it. Like do it. Just live it. And instead of like this container of worship, music, prayer, readings, Now live it. Ah, therein lies the rub. That's the hard part. I think that all the other stuff is easy. Living it, as you're saying, living the catch and release piece, living the I'm not going to make them my enemy. Every time I look on the news and I see a face, a particular personality, the enemy. Well, that's antithetical to what Father Boyle says, which is we're all kin and we belong to each other. If we belong to each other, then there's no enemy, there's no separation. And that's a very Course in Miracles philosophy as well, right?
Yeah, I love that you brought up Father Boyle because he has a no exclusion policy. It's everyone deserves compassion. Everyone deserves love. And as soon as you mention him, I thought about a story he told about being on a plane going with some of his homeboys. If anybody doesn't know who he is, he's the leader and founder of the world's largest gang rehabilitation center. And he goes on talks, and he had some of his guys with him. And he saw a guy who was not with them, just a passenger, come on the plane, and it said, Pennsylvania, was it Pennsylvania, or Pennsylvania is everyone. He was like, yes, that's the truth. And then when they got closer, he realized it said Pennsylvania versus everyone. And he said he was so close.
Wait, Pennsylvania what?
Versus everyone, as opposed, he thought it said Pennsylvania is everyone, meaning one with everyone. But when he got closer, it said versus, against. And he said, oh, look how close we can be. Two letters. It's only two thoughts, maybe two thoughts. We're two thoughts away at any given time from feeling that we could possibly have compassion for someone. Course in Miracles tells us the miracle is our shift in consciousness. So when I'm seeing someone who may bring back angry thoughts, or I see angry eyes, it's up to me at that point. Am I going to see them as someone worthy of compassion or not? Decision. I'm at a crossroad now. Can I be bitter or can I be better? I can be bitter if I continue to hold on to those upsetting thoughts. I can be better if I can do like Father Gregory and think in terms of that person is worthy of compassion, because he
And
says there's perception.
I have to say this too, because social media, I think that our era, our generation, we're very social media focused, and that's how we like connect. And that's how we know what other people are thinking, because everybody is putting every single thing they're thinking on social media. I've noticed that I had to unfollow certain things, groups, people, whatever, um, on my social media accounts. I had to unfollow. And it's not like I'm putting my head in the sand, but it's just like I don't want to fuel the verses. I want to fuel the us. I want to I want to highlight the you, and who are you really? Remember who you are, the you versus the V. And the only way I could do that is if I just like don't hear what they're thinking and saying, because I actually, and this is a recovery thing, and I'll close with this. When someone's using, who's an addict, they're not themselves. They're saying things, they're doing things in their mind is stuff that is just like not their true spirit. It's not who they really are when they are in that using relapse mode. It's the drugs talking, it's the disease talking. And in the same way, I don't want to be around disease. I want to be around recovery. So, in the same way, I have to limit the toxicity from the news, from the social media, for all of that. I don't want it in my mind because it's dangerous for me. And for me, it only enhances the struggle.
Yeah, you make such a really good point, because we have to remind ourselves that it is a choice at any given time. How much energy, how much focus are we going to put on those things that we know are going to upset us? I mean, we know those things exist. We started out by saying that. This world as it is right now exists as it is right now, and in the years to come, it won't be as it is right now. And so, how are we at any given time going to make it better? Maybe just simply by not making it worse. Maybe that's the best we can do right now. But maybe we don't make it worse by not focusing on those things which create upset within us.
Well, and Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within us. It's within us. It's not without us. It's not outside of us. It's within us. And that means I have to maintain heaven. Get the hell out. I got to get the hell out and let the heaven in. Margaret Owens says that.
I think it was Sister Chris who once gave a talk during seminary about raising hell. And it said, when we think about raising hell, we think about, we're making all the noise. But she said, let's raise hell and elevate it. Let's raise what we think is hellacious, what we think is hateful, and elevate it to a place of higher consciousness so that we become the ones who send out the love, send out the light, be the shifting of consciousness.
Yes, yes. And maybe one other thing, and some people might say, oh, you're just like bypassing. You're doing spiritual bypass right now. But just like if I watch Yellowstone, let's say the series Yellowstone, there's always a villain. There's always the antagonist. In everything, there's a protagonist and an antagonist. And if we can look at what's unfolding every single time we see a news brief, a news break, and a news conference, we're like shocked. There's always going to be an antagonist, a villain, and a hero. Right now, I know you're saying, well, wait a second. You just got finished saying, don't do that. Don't have us and them. So that's an antagonist and a protagonist. But it only exists in Maya. All of that only exists in the physical realm. It doesn't exist in the spiritual realm. In the spiritual realm, there are no antagonists. There are no protagonists. All are one. Everyone belongs to each other. And so Father Boyle is trying to like say, practice that now. Don't wait.
Practice that now. Practice that now. When I was doing chaplaincy work, I used to tell people after I would visit with them, I would say, I know I prayed with you here, but I'm not just going to leave you with that prayer. I'm taking your name home with me. I'm putting it in my prayer box. I'm going to continue praying with you and for you, even if I'm not in your presence. And when we say to people, I'm going to pray for you, or I'm going to pray about this, that is part of our spiritual practice too, to be in prayer, to almost continuously be in prayer, if we can bring ourselves back to that. Because if we're listening to a beautiful rock kirtan that you've done in your CD, or if we're listening to a mantra, if we can bring ourselves back to that, then even if just momentarily, we can step out of this madness.
Yes.
Be suspended and remember what it's like to feel peaceful.
That's right.
And to have the willingness to be loving and compassionate for those things we were just upset by.
Exactly. So our last question was, how do faith and mysticism empower us to stand strong in the face of the unthinkable? We've been saying a lot. We've been answering that sort of. So is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Well,
faith
just
and mysticism.
Right. I heard something today. I can't quote the source, but it said there's a big difference between hope and trust. That hope is where you kind of sort of think that maybe things might turn out well. But trust is knowing that in the end, who I choose to be and how I choose to be will move me to a place of peace. And in the end, the story will end well, because those of us who are living according to our belief systems will make sure that we provide peace for someone. And of course, in Miracles, it says you're the savior of the world. And I always say, well, that just means your world right in front of you. That just means whoever you're with, your spiritual community, your partner, your person, whoever it is, your friends at any given time. And so it's up to us to walk that path, to walk that mystic's path, which is to say we are continuously bringing ourselves back to a higher level of consciousness. I always say I want to pray harder so I can rise higher, love steadily, and forgive readily. And if we can do that, if we can remind ourselves when we get out of our upset, then maybe we are establishing and creating a foundation for a place of peace. And I think that is the mystic's path.
I am really looking forward to, because I think you've coined that phrase.
I made it up.
Rise higher, right?
Pray harder, rise higher, forgive steadily, love readily.
I'm looking forward to the book when the book comes out.
Actually, there was a quote in the Course of Miracles where in one of the editions where there was a conversation between Jesus and Helen, who was described, where she was so frustrated with her husband, and she was like, "I don't even like him. How am I supposed to love him?" And he just said, "Love steadily." And so I expanded on that.
Okay,
So
that's cool. It's good. You see, you're such you're an educator, so you're always going to give the in-text citation.
I
Excellent.
have to. I have
Yes,
to. I
yes.
had to quote
So
Jesus.
so check this out. So without going into too much detail, because I don't want to get mired in the series plot with the antagonist and the protagonist, because it's all Maya, right? But
Right.
where I work at my academic institution of higher learning, where it feels very much like higher ed and education in general is under attack, as is journalism. Um, Nevertheless, as are every single other person who's a vulnerable, marginalized, disenfranchised population. But
Yes.
besides that, see how quickly you could get right into the righteous indignation again. But something is happening in all higher institutions, higher ed institutions right now because of executive orders. Fine. We're scrambling. We're scrambling, and there's words and terms that are becoming illegal, right? Illegal. We don't have to get into the weeds of it. Bottom line is where higher ed is under attack. Okay, fine, no problem. So we have to like change things around and remove words that are going to upset the oppressor. I didn't say that. I don't know where that came from, that word. But anyway, I don't want anybody coming here. The FBI, you're the word police, you're under arrest. No. One of my
I got a file. I'll get you out. Don't
one
worry.
of my thank you. I'll call you. You'll answer the phone.
I will.
One of my students, I said, I'm very upset. And I tell her why I'm upset, especially Stage for Change, which is the sociodrama group that that I run, right? And we do a lot of work around oppression and racism and all these things that are now going to become illegal to come out of your mouth. She said to me, Dr. T, don't get upset. Don't worry. We just have to be more clever. We have to like rename things. We have to use code, just like the Underground Railroad. And you know what that
Yes,
meant, right? So
sure.
I have something for us. Instead of Doge, so when I say Doge now, a, about 2 months ago, we didn't even know what that meant.
Right,
Doge.
right.
What if every time we're receiving information that upsets the spirit, goes against our grain, so to speak? What if we were to take it and change it into, like, transform it, reimagine it, heal it, if you will? So Doge becomes divine order guides existence.
I love that. Thank
You
you.
want to
Yeah.
you want to talk about it?
Uh,
Divine order guides existence. Is
well,
that
that goes,
bypassing?
no, but that goes exactly. I'm not even sure if I finished this thought about hope versus trust, but that's what that is. Hope is about, we don't know how things are going to try. Trust is knowing that there is a divine order. There is a divine order. We trust the divine order. We trust the divine order. What's the next two letters?
Guides existence.
Divine order guides existence. And we trust that. We have to trust that because if not, then we're just going to all be jumping off cliffs. And we don't want that either because we are
Exactly.
needed. We are needed. We are needed here. We are needed now
We
to
are.
believe in that divine order guiding our existence and that everything, we have to trust that everything in the end will bring us back to where we need to be.
And this is a time of Lent. It's the time of Ramadan.
Yes.
When we talk about Ramadan and we're thinking about the Hajj, we're making that pilgrimage, but we're making the pilgrimage from the head to the heart space, getting out of the chatter, getting out of the all of the termites that we're feeling, and go to the heart. So that's the Hajj is that. And it,
Yes.
in terms of Islam, there is a jihad, and the jihad is here, so that the holy war is here for us to make sure that we're taking what we see as Doge, and whatever it stands for, with symbolism of a chainsaw, very very scary, very frightening, very, like, I don't know, thriller theater, but no, divine order guides existence. So if
Yeah.
if that's true, just like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, speaking of a Lent example, what is he feeling? Is he well, like, was he feeling fear? Was he feeling uncertainty? Was he feeling righteous indignation? Was he feeling all of the things that we're feeling? But divine order guides existence, and he knew that, and he said, "Not my will, but yours. Let
Yes.
this cup pass, but okay, like, I don't like what's happening. Let this cup pass, but your will, not mine." Divine order guides existence.
Yeah, it's sort of a sacred surrender, and we're talking about the sacred struggle. And you mentioned the holy war that exists up here, and the journey is to land here. They say that's the longest journey, right, from the head to the heart.
Yeah.
And we started by saying, "Here's my heart," and I wanted to mention that years ago, not that many years ago, but a couple of years ago, I was having trouble with live streams because I kept getting in trouble with YouTube as well as with Facebook, because I was using my favorite class opening song, which was "Here's My Heart, Lord" by Lauren Daigle. And they started blocking me. And I called you in distress and I said, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Can I use one of your songs, which you had on your CD?" And you said, "I'm going to do one better than that. I'm going to recreate your song." And so you did. And I've always been so grateful. And I'm so glad it's here for everyone to see. Can we show that?
Yes, yes, we can. And it would be a beautiful way, I think, to end.
"Here's My Heart, Lord," by re-digitalized by Grace, Reverend Dr. Grace Telesco.
You can hear it, right?
Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. 'Cause I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. 'Cause you are strong, you are sure, you are life, you endure, you are good, always true, you are light breaking through.
Okay, I got a little teary. I am so grateful to you for doing that for me, for us, for our spiritual community. I'm so grateful to you for Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary. I'm so grateful to you for being my prayer partner and my friend. And I look forward to whatever comes next with these conversations. Would you like to wrap it up and lead us out with a prayer?
I love it. Yes, I will. And you know what I'd like to do with your permission, and right back at you in every way. You know, during these times, if we don't have the people in our lives, you know, that friend group, right? That very special, sacred, safe friend group, um, to support each other. It's I don't know how we would get through what we get through, and you really you helped me tremendously as a spiritual guide. Thank you for that. I want to just use this as a prayer, if you don't mind,
Of course.
if we can.
I don't know what you're going to say.
Okay, so
Whatever it is,
uh, so oh goodness, mine, oh gosh. Okay. Um, I'm trying to find it. See, what we like to do is always allow spirit to take over a little bit, you know, and we plan a lot of things, but as far as every single thing planned, maybe not. Okay.
like this
Here it
moment.
is. This is it. So we'll take a deep breath. And Father Boyle's quote is going to be our closing prayer. Only kinship, inching ourselves closer to creating a community of kinship such that God might recognize it. Soon we imagine with God this circle of compassion. Then we imagine no one standing outside of that circle, moving ourselves closer to the margins so that the margins themselves become erased. We stand there with those whose dignity has been denied. We locate ourselves with the poor and the powerless and the voiceless. We stand at the edges and we join the easily despised and the readily left out. We stand with the demonized so that the demonizing will stop. We situate ourselves right next to the disposable so that the day will come when we stop throwing people away. Thank you, God, for keeping us on track and knowing that Doge really means divine order guides existence. Help us to remember that in all things.
Thank you. I love that. I love you.
Talk to you soon.
See you soon. God bless you.